In the last video, we got a better sense of how Node is going to automatically wrap all the different files we write inside of our project with that kind of invisible function that has some arguments inside of it. In this video, I want to now expand on that a little bit more and give you a better sense of how that require function works along with that module.exports thing. So to get started, I'm going to first find my index.js file, and I'm going to restore the code that we had inside of here just a little bit ago. So I'll say const message is require dot slash myscript.js. And then I'll do a quick console log of message, like so. Okay, I'm going to run this file again, just to make sure everything still works. Yep, it looks good. All right, so let's focus on what this require function right here is really doing. And there's like one or two really important things I want to point out in particular. These two important things are not super relevant for any code that we're going to be writing right now, but these are definitely some ideas that are going to come up along your JavaScript career and give you some pain. And so I want to just point them out right now. So at the very start of learning Node, you are aware of these big issues. Okay, so quick diagram. So when we run Node at our terminal right now, we are executing the index.js file. So remember, that means that we're going to take everything inside the index.js file, wrap it with that kind of invisible function, and then execute it. When we run the code inside there, we call that require function, and we pass in an argument of ./myscript.js. Again, the / means look in the current working directory or in the current directory and find a file called myscript.js. So here's what happens behind the scenes. When we call require, Node is going to look out into the current folder and find that file, and it finds it right here. It's then going to wrap the contents of this file with that same kind of invisible function and execute it. We then assign a value of hi to module.exports. Now, as we have seen several times now, we're essentially saying take that value of hi and assign it back over to const message, or really the message variable. But there's something else that goes on behind the scenes at the exact same time. When we require in a file, and we run that file and get some exports from it, we are simultaneously going to update something called the require cache. The require cache is an object that stores the result of requiring in a file. So this is an object right here that has some number of keys and values. The different keys of this object are going to be the names of the different files that we require in. So when we require in myscript.js, we can imagine that we add a new key into this object of myscript.js. And then the value is going to be whatever we exported from that file. So in this case, we exported the string simply hi. So inside this cache right here, we put in hi as a value. So now here's the key part. If we ever tried to require in myscript.js a second time, like let's imagine that we copy paste down and just run require myscript directly like so, the second require statement right here is not going to cause the myscript.js file to be executed again. So this is not what happens. That does not occur. Instead, Node is going to take a look at the require cache, and it's going to see that we've already required in that file called myscript.js. So instead of executing that file, it's going to take a little shortcut. It's going to take a look at whatever had been exported previously and just give us that value directly. So in other words, this is, again, the big key point in a Node.js project. We only ever execute every file one single time. Whatever we export from that file that one single time is what we get forever. Now I can prove all this stuff to you very easily. Let's take a look at some, again, behind the scenes stuff. The code that we're going to write right now is definitely not code that you're going to be writing on a daily basis. I'm just showing you this stuff so that you understand what is happening. Okay, so back inside of index.js, I'm going to delete that console log of message. I'm going to delete the message variable and just leave behind require myscript.js. And then I'm going to do a console log of require.cache. So again, this is an object that stores the result of requiring in any file to our project. So I'm going to save this, flip back over to my terminal, and run node index.js. And there's a lot of stuff inside this console log, but let's just try to pull out some of the most important parts. If I scroll up just a little bit, about halfway, Again, this is really hard to read what's going on here, but there's one very particular thing that I want to point out. Actually, what? I'm just going to go up to the top here, make life a little bit easier. So when we did that console log of the require cache, it is an object. We can tell that because we got that curly brace right there. And then the keys, like we just said, are the different files that have been required into our project. So technically, the index.js file was required in. If we scroll down a little bit more, I'll then see the second key value pair of myscript.js. So this is the key that says, hey, we've already required in myscript.js. And then the value is the module object. I know in the diagram just a second ago, I told you that what gets stored inside the cache is just what we exported from the file, but technically it is that entire module object. Inside that module object is whatever we exported, but for the purposes of the diagram, it just makes it life a little bit easier to imagine that we just store the exported value. So again, here's the result of requiring in the myscript.js file. We get this module object. It has the ID of the file, which is really just the full directory name and file name of the file. And then most importantly, right there, that is the entire key, the big thing I want to show you, the exports property. So you can see exports right there says hi there. So this entire object right here says, hey, we've already required in myscript.js. And when we required it that first time, we got back a value of hi there. And so now anytime that we ever require in this file for a second time, we're going to get whatever is right there. We don't run myscript.js a second time. We just get that same string back over and over and over again. Now, why is this relevant? Well, in the case of exporting a string is always essentially a string. But if we ever have some kind of object or variable declared inside of this myscript.js file that changes over time, life is going to start to get really, really interesting. Let's take a quick pause right here. When we come back in the next video, we're going to make some changes to myscript.js, and we're going to see why it is so important at the very start of learning Node to really understand this module system. So quick pause, and I'll see you in just a minute.